First, Commissioner, can I congratulate you on being awarded the Public Service Medal? I don't think any public servant experiences the vitriol that you do. So, yeah, for enforcing policies of the government as you are. So thank you. Just wanted to put that on the record. Commissioner, at the Sydney Dialogue 2025, you described the social media ban's effect on children as being similar to throwing them into the waves without swimming lessons, which I agree. You also said at that talk, prior to the legislation of the ban, you had been raising concerns. Are you able to share what those concerns were?
I think what you're referring to was a discussion I had with a senior official from Indonesia's Ministry for Communications and facilitated by David Spears. He asked me about some of my earlier testimony and concerns about the approach of the social media ban before it was deliberated and we knew what it would look like. And I did use a water analogy about teaching kids to swim and making sure that just as we fence pools and back it with enforcement, that it was going to be a much harder thing to do when you're effectively fencing the ocean, but that we wouldn't throw our kids in the water without teaching them how to swim, which is why we take a holistic approach. And so he had sort of said, well, have you come around to this? And really based on the scaffolding that Parliament provided us with and then through the consultation that we were able to undertake, including with young people, to really help us hone and listen to the public about what the regulatory guidance should look like, and that included the industry too, and even the ability for us to have the autonomy to create a children's statement on digital rights that we are very committed to, as well as develop our own evaluation of the implementation that not only looks at the potential positive effects, but also any unintended consequences. And we're really committed to making sure that that is methodologically rigorous, transparent, and open. Later this month, we'll be putting the methodology and the framework on the Open Science Framework, and then we expect to start getting some results. We have 4,100 children paired with their 4,100 parents. So a pretty large sample size where we're going to be tracking this over the period of 2 years, which I think will give us a really solid evidence base about what is working and what's not.
Thank you. Let's say I'm a 14-year-old. The ban does not stop me from being served distressing or harmful content in a logged out state or on services that aren't included in the ban. It wouldn't stop me from being preyed upon by manipulative and addictive algorithms, nor will it prevent me from being bullied or being groomed, given the messaging and gaming services exemption. Obviously, the Phase 2 codes that eSafety has developed and the Planned Digital Duty of Care legislation go further to addressing the concerns I've just raised. But on its own, I'm just curious to understand what is the point of the social media ban when there isn't any digital duty of care?
Well, I mean, I think in many ways the social media delay is a form of a circuit breaker where we're trying to prevent children from accessing the predatory and deceptive features like snap streaks and endless scroll and algorithms that send them down rabbit holes, and so that we can take this really valuable time and make sure that we're building their digital and algorithmic literacy and building their critical reasoning and resilience. Cyberbullying, image-based abuse, all of the online abuse we're aware of are largely human issues, and any platform, whether it's a messaging platform, a gaming platform, or social media platform that brings them together, can facilitate some form of harm. The harms are different, and we're monitoring for that. And I guess what I would say is this is why we have our complaints schemes, So we can use this to remediate harms around child cyberbullying and image-based abuse or adult cyber abuse. And now what some of our codes and standards will help us do will particularly apply to gaming platforms, a much broader subset of sites, including messaging sites, but also AI companions and chatbots. And that will prevent under 18s from being served content that is pornographic, sexually explicit, extremely violent, suicidal ideation, self-harm, and disordered eating. So these have to work as a whole. The social media delay will achieve some things, but we're bolstering that with our other functions.
And so do you have an indication of when the digital duty of care would be legislated?
Well, that will be a question. I mean, the government, through the communications minister, has indicated her intention, and every time I talk to her about it, she's very excited.
So it has been 15 months since that commitment was made, and obviously the question that everyone keeps asking is, are we, by legislating the ban, are we putting the cart before the horse? When it comes to, defending the social media ban delayed development, whether that delay has impacted the digital duty of care, because being 15 months, shouldn't that be, sped up?
We did deal with, it's sort of difficult, and because e-safety was meant to appear a bit earlier today, but we dealt with the policy part with the department here around the work that they're doing on digital duty of care. So there's not a lot that we can traverse about what the government is doing. Rather than repeat what the department said, I'll suggest that you go back and have a look at that evidence. We have, and I'm just trying to go back to my notes because I know we spoke about it many, many hours ago, but we have, there was a review into the Online Safety Act. We actually brought that forward, and based on those recommendations, we're undertaking a body of work. We've committed not just only to a duty of care, but also restricting access to notify and non-consensual tracking services. There's a range of recommendations that have been made, including changes to e-safety's powers and governance. So we're considering all of that. The work's ongoing, but it's something that we really do want to consider carefully, get right, but bring forward as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my summary.
No, that's totally fine.
That was my summary of a few hours ago.
Consultation that's already been done. It's been 15 months. So when are we anticipating?
No, the consultation wasn't done 15 months ago.
No, sorry. The commitment by the government was done 15 months ago, and you've just told me there's been extensive consultation. So when will the digital duty of care bill be legislated?
We addressed this with the department this morning. I'm sorry that you weren't here
I
for
know,
that
I understand
evidence.
there's a million other committees that we were on, but I'd presume that the e-safety commissioner would be aware of the developments around that, given it's so closely tied to
sure,
the social media.
I'm sure she's got a lot to add. I just wanted to be clear that the legislative work is happening in the department. But
I think that work is starting in earnest. We're having conversations. We started the Safety by Design initiative in 2018, and so a lot of the duty of care is predicated on those Safety by Design principles. The other thing is there are digital duties of care in other parts of the world. We're part of a global online safety regulators network, so we're looking closely and we're speaking to other regulators about how it works in practice, and so. We will have suggestions about what we'd like to see, what we think would be most implementable, most successful, and really help us put the onus back on the platforms themselves to incorporate the safety at the front end rather than, leaving us in a situation where we have to play a game of whack-a-mole. So I think we're all really aligned that this is where we want and need to go.
Now, it's been reported that adult men's faces can verify teen girls' Snapchat accounts. Am I correct in understanding that you were of the view that all 10 age-restricted platforms were in compliance with the legislation on January 16th of this year, 2026?
Take that.
Thanks, Senator. I think that what we were saying around that time was that we were pleased with the information they had provided around the number of deactivations. However, we have ongoing investigations in relation to a number of services that we're using compulsory information notices, and to really test what they've told us. And obviously there's been a lot of anecdotal stories in the media around, for example, the example you just gave, and other ways that young people might be circumventing the restriction. And so we are currently using a range of tools and techniques to test what we're hearing from platforms, engaging with, for example, the providers of verification services as well to understand their settings. That is ongoing investigations. So at this stage, I don't think we can conclude one way or another whether individual platforms are sufficiently taking reasonable steps.
Yeah, just because it's, quite bizarre that obvious loopholes like this exist, and how the government can consider that as being, sort of compliant or being effective, rather.
I think it's about the initial stages and understanding, as the Commissioner said, that these things do take some time. And so very positive that the platforms all chose to engage and did take steps to deactivate in the initial stages. Then naturally, as with any new system that you have, you realise as you roll it out that perhaps not everything is working as smoothly. The question is, are they taking appropriate steps to deal with those issues when they come up? Yeah. We're working through that with them and continuing to investigate.
Just got some rapid-fire questions just in terms of numbers, because I'm mindful of the time. For each age-restricted social media platform, how many under 16 accounts have been deactivated to date?
We don't have with us the specific numbers for each platform. We are continuing to seek further information from them. What I can say is the numbers that were provided by the platforms, and an aggregate was over 4.7 million that we announced early in January.
How many? So you wouldn't be able to tell how many of them were inactive or duplicate or alternative accounts?
Not at this point in time.
Not at this point, okay. I can probably pick that up later. Just finally, in regards to Twitter or X's plan to use its Grok AI to perform age estimation, I think the Commissioner was quoted in the Sydney Morning Herald as saying that it would be interesting to see how efficacious that is and how spicy. Has eSafety formed a view as to the efficacy of Grok in this regard?
Well, we actually have two separate investigations, one into X, as I mentioned, but I don't think you were here for my opening statement, but one into XAI, which is the purveyor of Grok, around the alleged generation of child sexual abuse material, which is in violation of our DIS standard. So again, yes, that was kind of a marketing I suppose, blitz around how Grok was going to be politically incorrect and spicy. That was how it was described. But I was very concerned to see that in the Washington Post, they actually obtained some documentation that were given to people at XAI who were working on Grok, indicating that they were likely going to come across quite violent and sexual material, and for them to sign a waivers to relieve them of any liability, I imagine, around mental health and well-being. So, again, we'll see if we can get our hands on those documents and what they actually tell us, but it certainly looks like there was intention there.
And finally, just What platforms is eSafety considering adding to the social media ban currently? Are there any additional platforms?
There are a few other platforms that have self-assessed in. Blue Sky is one of them, and Lemonade, which is also owned by ByteDance, so it's considered a TikTok clone. There are also Match.com, which has a number of dating sites. They assess themselves as in. They're under 18, as is Yubo, which is a French, used to be dating but social media site, previously for under teens, but now for 18 and over, and they've age verified their entire user base twice. So, so the list has expanded. Again, it's not a static list. It's not something that we're continuing to try to expand. I think we've covered some of the main ones. We're also looking closely at different migratory patterns. But what we've really seen in the past 2 months is that while we might see some initial spikes in downloads, and some of the platforms were Yubo, Lemonade, Big O Live, CapCut, CoverStar, and a few others, you see a spike, you see some downloads, you don't actually see a lot of usage, and then you see the trend fall off. And that's probably because the major social media platforms have done such a good job over the years of really entrenching their users and having a critical mass. So when kids are fanning out to go to different platforms and they don't have a critical mass of their friends there, it's, they're tending to leave or abandon those.
Senator, just to clarify, so as you know, we don't have a power to declare whether services are in or out. So the lists we've provided publicly are to assist parents and children to navigate the social media minimum age restriction. So I just wanted to, it's often confused that we are the ones with the list and we add and take platforms off. That's the purpose of why we've prepared the list. It's not a declaratory list. People that aren't on that list still have the obligation to comply if they meet the test in the Act.
Wonderful. Thank